You're listening to the Front Yard Mission podcast. Front Yard Mission is a love God, love neighbor movement in our world. Jesus took the 613 commandments in the Old Testament and boiled them down to just two, to love God and love neighbor.
This is how you heal a city. When the hopeless find their hope in Christ alone. This is how you heal a city.
Welcome to the Front Yard Mission podcast. I'm Steve Lutz.
And I'm Jonathan Weibel.
Jonathan, you may have had questions like I have about who's this amazing voice that introduces the podcast every time? Yeah, have you gotten questions like that?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like I think that's the highlight of our podcast.
I agree. I think it comes out very well. Well, we are super excited today to have as our guest that voice, the one and only Tricia Baumhardt. Welcome, Tricia.
Hi. Hello.
So glad to have you here.
I just broke something. Sorry.
What did you break?
Well, it's just something in my husband's. It's probably not important.
But just some of his studio
I just moved my
probably,
foot under his desk and something fell. It's fine.
He'll probably be fine with that. I mean,
Sorry.
gearheads are not protective of their equipment, so it's
not
fine.
at all. Not at all. Tricia, we've been fans for a long time. You and Jonathan have known each other for quite some time. I'll be interested to hear more about that. But for people who may be learning a little bit more about you, Tricia, you fronted the band Superchick for many years.
Yeah.
Very exciting career. Everything from like being featured in a whole bunch of movies and TV shows with your songs, right? Including, I didn't know this until I was, researching this, but Legally Blonde. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And nominated for a Grammy. And one thing I love about...
You didn't win though, right?
Didn't. I think Kobe did.
We
were, they lump you all in with the gospel, or it could have been like Kirk Franklin. I mean, we had any chance.
Yeah.
Right. Jonathan, the award is being there, like just being nominated.
It's true. It was pretty amazing. It's very surreal.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Oh, I bet. And one thing I love about Superchick, you all really were kind of pushing boundaries of different genres, right? Pop and rock and some rap and, just kind of blending a lot of different things in that early 2000s, milieu. Just is kind of awesome what you guys were all doing back then. So
yeah, it really was fun. And when I listen back, it is like this big hodgepodge of, it was all of our personalities. And I think Max, our producer, really just took, our bass player loved hip hop and rap. And so he just let each one of us pull what we loved into it. And that really became, the sounds that, looking back, we were creating it, and you don't realize until you listen years later. Like, I just listened to our song Pure the other day, and I was like, this is still pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It really sounded great, and I was I was able to just be proud of it in a different way, because when you're playing it every night, you think it's good maybe, but I don't know. You get to zoom out and go, wow, I'm really proud of what we did. It was something really cool. And I think music was really open to that then. You could really create, I think Christian music really wanted people to just do it, make fun music for kids,
Yeah. And and I'm not just saying this, but I think when we look back to music, from that era, and of course, and you guys had a long recording career together, about 20 years, right?
It was about 15 of touring recording years.
There are some other, I'll be charitable. Some music from that era has not aged real well.
Yeah.
I think what you guys put out there has, like, it still sounds great. It still sounds current. I mean, it's just has aged really well. So
thank you.
So Tricia, let me ask you a question real quick. So Tricia and I was a youth pastor in a little town called Lawrenceburg, Indiana, which is where Tricia's from. And I knew her in junior high, I think it was when I first met you.
Wow.
But Tricia, share so go back a few years here to when you're little Tricia Brock. and like share what happened to you, like your faith story. Share your faith story with us.
So I was a pretty intense kid, and my parents would tell you that it went back to the very beginning, and that my grandma prayed for me in my mom's womb, and my mom felt me leap. So it was
Really?
one of those. My parents believed that the spirit was with me
Yeah.
from the time I was born. And I would say that from a very young age, I asked Jesus into my heart at 5 at a church that we gathered with. Our church would meet with other churches, and it clicked. I wanted to ask Jesus into my heart. I got baptized then, and also when I was like 12, because it felt like this season when I knew God in a deeper way, and I felt like I needed to even get baptized again. I rededicated myself a lot because I also lived in a little bit of that fear.
Yeah.
I think it was that time when churches preached the fear a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a Baptist church, so I think it actually was a bit moderate for a Baptist church, but the pastor would be like, "Do you know you're going to heaven someday?" And I would be like, "I don't know." And I would go forward. And the pastor, we were just on a pretty friendly basis at that point. And he'd be like, "Tricia, I think you're good." Because I just, I lived in a little bit of like, I don't know, am I really saved? So I went forward a lot, chronic go forward kid. But I would say that I I felt him pulling me, keeping me close my whole life.
Yeah.
And I read my Bible as a kid, and I wanted to, it wasn't just, I want to be good, but I think at a pretty young age, I understood I wanted to live a holy life. And I remember at some point in high school, just going, you know what? I don't want to have an ordinary life. God, will you just, I don't know what it means, but I'll do whatever you ask.
Yeah.
I don't want to just go to college, get married, and just live an ordinary life. I want to know I'm serving you. And I think I was open to that being missions or anything. Basically my parents really saw that music was an outlet for me. I was not an athlete. They didn't try to force that because it was just not a natural thing. Very active, but not coordinated. So by middle school, almost, my mom started reaching out, and I think our worship pastor at church encouraged it, and found a vocal coach in Cincinnati that taught at Xavier University, who was willing to take on my sister and I and do vocal coaching. So as far as that, I started some vocal training young. And I think people kind of thought like, it's a big voice for a little girl. And I think I had a bit of confidence in it, which I was actually fairly shy and insecure. So the fact that I had this confidence in a voice was, people were like, you should push her there. And so I kept feeling like those doors opened, and, so had some training, which I always tell young people, like, if it's what your dream is, just kind of like be prepared in case that dream comes, try to be ready. So I think, I think my parents kind of thought she could be a singer. I don't think I thought it, but, at the end of, high school, my parents had bought us tickets to go to one of those Christian music festivals at Kings Island. They had Spirit Song. Spirit Song is their Christian one. Yep. And we went several years. My family loved concerts. We went to all of them. Carmen, all of them. Remember those tours?
Satan Bite the Dust.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The best. Stadiums full of screaming children. It was so much fun. But we went to the year I graduated from high school in 97. We went to Spirit Song. A band called Church of Rhythm was playing on stage, and my sister and I are in our seats, and they get done. We go to the restroom in an intermission. We come back and they are sitting in our seats. They like the band had crammed into like the few seats that were ours. And my sisters were kind of standing there awkwardly going, do you ask a band to get out of your seats, or do you? And then she's like, you know what? That drummer went to college with me. So Melissa went to Judson University for a few years and then had kind of stepped back and was like, I don't know what I want to major in. I don't think I should stay here for now. So she was back home at this point. I went to college with that drummer. And so we kind of walk in and go, these were our seats, and but we're nice about it.
Right.
And so they squeeze down and we sit together and watch the Newsboys play. And in this band was Max,
yeah,
who ended up being our main writer and producer. And
he's a little bit of a freak of nature too. Like he's kind of a genius.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just so good at what he does, but not without hard work. I now that I know him, and even now as a friend, he gets hyper fixated on whatever he wants to do, and he doesn't sleep until he figures it out. He is like the mad genius, So at the time, they were still in a band called Church of Rhythm, and they're doing well, but I think he sensed that all of them were kind of going to disband soon, for whatever reason. I don't even remember. But as we chat throughout the night, the Newsboys played, we all watched them together. And then we kind of chatted a while at their autograph table before we were going to leave. And he just threw out, do you girls sing? Because I really have this idea. I want to start a band and call it Superchick, and I want girls to front it.
Right.
So we chat about that. We sing a Lisa Loeb song for him because he wanted to hear us sing. And it was all very lighthearted, right? I mean, it was a little bit jovial. And I think I just thought they were flirting, which they probably were a little bit, but they were actually looking for female singers. So we said, well, yeah, we both have actually been trained. And what's the idea? And, he really had this vision already then. Well, I mean, he said, we have a song about suicide. And when we sing it, we have so many young kids and a lot of girls that come up and share their stories about depression. And we don't feel equipped to like counsel after shows. And we just feel like we need women in the group. And I want to write songs about things kids are going through. I want it to be relatable and fun. And so, I mean, he really had this vision, and we gave him our number, I think, like our house number. I don't even remember if we had cell phones.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
For our younger listeners, there are these things called landlines.
That's right.
And it was a phone on the wall, and people could call that, right?
So I proceeded, my plan that year was I did YWAM for a year. And so I went off and started that. And I get a call at one point from my family, and they're like, guess what? Those guys called. And they want you to come up on your Christmas break and audition and like record a song that they've written for this project and see if you all think it's a good fit. And so I'm kind of like, what? I just thought we'd never hear from them again. So we did. My mom drove up with my sister and I that Christmas break, and we recorded a version of, I believe it was One Girl Revolution was the very first song that he started to write for it. And they told us more of their vision, and it was kind of a, let's pray about it. Let's see in a few months when I'm done with YWAM, and Melissa, because she was in this limbo after college, it was kind of the perfect thing. When I was done with YWAM, we just said, let's just try this. Let's do it. So it really felt like a very God ordained moment, right? I mean, literally sat them in our seats.
That's crazy. I did not know that story. So
there's God's providence leading you.
Yeah.
If I can pull on a thread there that you mentioned in terms of, some of the encountering, some of the pain and the heartache in the audience. And I know you all produced Beauty from Pain. Right. In terms of, I was thinking about like, what does it mean to love your neighbor when you're a touring band? Talk Talk a little bit about about how songs like that really ministered to the people that you were performing for.
That album, so really Beauty from Pain was about a broken heart for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was when we wrote that song. I had fallen in love for the very first time in a pretty I think this is going to be it. And he broke up with me on Christmas Day. I mean, it can't get any worse.
That's kind of a no-no. Yeah.
It was horrible.
Could have been your birthday.
Could have been, but it was Christmas. So I had to write Wishes, which was an angry breakup song on, I think it's that same album. Wishes is about him because it felt good to get it out. But Beauty from Pain was about, it was really a few months of wrestling with God, after that breakup, especially when you've it was that whole I didn't date in high school. I really made an effort to try to follow God and purity and so then you really meet this guy that loves Jesus and you just think, oh my gosh, this is it. God is working out all the pieces. And then he crushes your heart. And then, for me, it was my first big tragedy in life. Yeah. So I really went all in my grief. It was when I think back, that was part of it. It was my first grieving. My first, life had been real easy and good. And then the breakup. So we wrote the song. The interesting thing, and I'll never forget it all these years later, but we started touring that album and it definitely resonated with people. It was the deepest we had gone lyrically and stuff. Right. And we would get to a church, get to a town, and we would be met with the people we would meet, the promoters, and they would tell us situation after situation of tragic things that had happened in their towns. And we were met with God was sending us to these places where they were grieving, a child would be lost or found or, pass away in the church, or a family member had died of cancer. And all these places people were grieving. And as the front person, it was the first time in my life I knew what grief was, and where I probably even felt depressed, where I kind of had to really rise above it. And I just knew, and I remember journaling it, that God had my heart broken in that season. And it served a bigger purpose because I would meet all these people and I had never grieved. I had never really lost something I loved. So in that season, there was just so much purpose in it. And probably some of their brokenness helped heal some of mine. We were really, really connected with fans. And so I would say, you mentioned loving your neighbor on the road, and we didn't get to be a part of church families in that season much. But we had fans that I would say to you probably came to 20 shows over the years. So we had families that brought their kids and they grew up with us and we recognized them and we knew them. And we would, we really loved on them. We got to build relationship. And that was such a gift to me that even the guys in my band were the same way. They were really caring for the fans that loved our music. And we really tried to live to a high standard on the road. And we viewed ourselves as youth pastors was what we would say. I feel like God gave us this ministry, but we feel like we're youth pastors too. Yeah. Mostly the United States, but we did get some international stuff. Just didn't get to build those relationships as much internationally, but we got to love people. And to be honest with you, I'm still in touch with some fans that became friends. Wow. Very cool. And their families. And I've walked through seeing, good and bad happen in their lives, but it was a gift.
The Front Yard Mission podcast is sponsored by The Flower Box. The Flower Box is one of the top online resources for cookie decorating supplies, monthly cookie classes, and oodles of free video tutorials. Flowerbox.com features an extensive line of creative cookie cutters, cookie stencils, and cookie decorating kits. Plus, find the book, The Crafted Cookie, a beginner's guide to baking and decorating cookies. The Flower Box team is passionate about helping home bakers find joy and purpose through cookies. The Flower Box is based in Center Hall, Pennsylvania, and online at flowerbox.com. That's FLOURBOX.com. The Flower Box is honored to support Front Yard Mission.
Your Front Yard Mission is part of God's calling for your life. We call it our common calling. In other words, we all have it. Leadership Advance is designed to help you better understand how God has shaped you for His unique and specific calling on your life. There will be encouraging speakers, insightful assessments, personal coaching, and opportunities to interact with other participants that will combine to create a uniquely impactful weekend. Whatever your season of life, age, or career, Leadership Advance will have something for you. This event is held in the first quarter of the year, and you can get additional information by visiting us at leadershipadvance.org.
So Tricia, let me ask you a quick question too about Front Yard Mission. You know, you're kind of our narrator, our voice of Front Yard Mission, our podcast, and you're on our board. Mm-hmm. And give us some of your thoughts about the Great Commandment. You've been through the master class. You've read the book. Give me a couple of thoughts for our listeners today about Front Yard Mission, why you love it.
I just feel very strongly that each day of our lives matters, and that everywhere you go, there's somebody that you can make eye contact with and smile and show some kindness, and you can change their day. Yeah. And that God uses really little choices that we make and little actions. And it's this ripple effect in the world, and He spreads love through us. And I've believed that for a long time. It really did start as a kid. My dad would send us off to school every day saying, today be a leader and not a follower, and try to change at least one person's life. Yeah. And he started at a really young age. Okay. So I remember an age in like my tweens where that didn't quite make sense to me, but I heard it. It stuck. And then the first time that it came into play in my life was in high school. And I started to see some bullying and some kids who were the not cool kids getting a little bit teased, and they were the joke sometimes. And I was kind of new at this school, and I wasn't in like the cool club yet or anything, but I also didn't care to be. A lot of the cool club was like the cheerleaders and the athletes, and I knew I wouldn't quite be that, but I just started seeing from the outside. And so I just started to befriend people that I could see looked lonely, looked sad. I would just talk to them. I would sit by them at lunch, and that was when it clicked to me. This is when I can lead. This is when my choices matter. I don't have to go along with that. I might not be cool, and that's going to be okay. So it really it shifted who I was. And then the fact that God led me to this band where a huge part of our position was not, anti-bullying. And it was how much, that was that era when the bullying stuff happened, and the first school shooting happened, and the kid said he was bullied.
Right.
Was it Columbine? I think.
Yeah. I think your song was featured I'm trying to think back about one of your songs was featured in a movie about bowling, right?
Hero.
Yeah, that's right.
It might have been. I can't remember.
It was. The top of my head. I'll just say it was.
Okay. We'll look it up later. I don't know. Once again, I know that God is in the details. Yeah. And so it was something that was really important to me my whole life, to love others. And I've seen in each season how even when I'm going through a really hard season, if I just look outside of what I'm feeling and going through, and I just, kind of suck it up and just ask somebody else how they're doing, it just helps me move through it. It reminds me that I'm not the only one struggling. It reminds me that, what I'm going through, I'll get through it. But there are people hurting all around me, or just people who need a friend, or just need that little reminder that there's kindness in the world. And I really think we're at that kind of a point, where people need to believe that somebody cares, and that when you run into them at a store, that sometimes people look at you like shocked when you're kind, and that just makes me so sad.
Yeah.
I back when I was in Superchick and I had like crazy hair and mohawks, people really looked shocked when I was nice, because I think they viewed me as like this crazy punk kid who, and inside I was still me. Outside I looked kind of crazy. And so I would like get on an airplane to fly to a show and have like an older man sitting next to me. And when we would start having a really nice conversation, they would even admit to me that they were shocked at who I was.
Yeah.
Because they just expected a punk girl that wouldn't even be nice, and God also put me next to the craziest people on airplanes. I ended up sitting next to a guy that said he was one of the advisors for like Billy Graham, and and we'd have these conversations about their kids and about teens now and culture and music, and I would pray that God would put me next to interesting people on airplanes, because I just loved those like just God moments where they're like, he could have sat me next to anybody. This is crazy. And my sister would take Dramamine and sleep. So I was bored.
There's two types of people, right? Like you and I are the same. Like I always want to engage with people.
I love people.
And sometimes I don't want to talk. And like I have two responses when someone talks to me. I'm like, if I want to talk, I'll tell them I'm a musician. If I don't want to talk, I'll tell them I'm an evangelist. That usually shuts them up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But that's a great example of loving the people that God puts in your path.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
I
how we
guess I was
define
going
it.
to say at the end of that because of my unconventional life traveling, my natural inclination is just wherever I am to engage.
Yeah.
Right.
The cashiers at my Kroger, I know them all. And we like know things about each other's life.
Right.
And I want them to feel seen. I want them to feel important, because they are.
Yeah.
And the guy who bags my groceries is Sam, and he's the kindest little man. And he's getting more frail, and I'm sure he's not working there because he wants to, maybe, but I've just had so many interactions with him where we know things about each other, and I want people to feel seen and loved. And what I'll say to you guys is since you sharing this all with me, Jonathan, it's opened up to me how much that was like this God inspired instinct in me.
Yeah. The DNA.
You need to love people.
DNA,
Don't waste a day.
Yeah.
If you have a conversation, like at the least let them feel seen and heard and loved from you, and then wonder why you're so kind.
It feels like you and I and Steve, we have a similar practice in that, like when I go into a meeting or into a place where I'm speaking or anywhere, I have an interaction. One of the things I'm praying is, God, because of Christ in me, let me change the atmosphere, and I think you have that same kind of thing happening in your life. And I love that.
Yeah.
So give us, like where are you seeing traction in your life in Front Yard Mission and the Great Commandment movement, and where are you seeing some, like some hard things, like it's hard to love our neighbor?
Yeah. So I feel like this has been so good for me. It's all the simple ways that I can love my neighbors.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually harder to love our neighbors that physically live near us than just people, because it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
They literally could like walk over anytime. And that, I think, is what for me is the thing I've had to admit to myself is the hardest thing. Also, now I know if, where you live is like, if you live on a cul-de-sac, there's just this community that tends to be fostered with young kids and with families.
Yep.
And we live on a busy street, and we will joke. We have met several people now that we're getting to know better and better, but people just don't hang out on our street. But in our neighborhood, there's all these little cul-de-sacs where it's like parties happen. 4th of July is big, Halloween. But I am finding that in general, I mean, we have a huge neighborhood. So I'm not just in a place with like 20 houses, right? It's overall a big neighborhood. I'm with my kids' friends' parents. That's one way I'm
Yeah.
finding that it's a really great way to build some community. In our area, it's what's interesting is almost everybody I meet is a Christian. So
Right.
that's one thing.
Yeah.
A lot of our neighbors are believers and go not to church with us necessarily, but to churches in the area. So then it almost takes that away, right? And then but my vision right now is a little bit like, so a lot of my neighbors are Christians. I would love us to kind of be like, let's do some events
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
because we're all like-minded, right? So let's find ways to find the people here who do need Jesus and do need to be loved. Because honestly, everybody I'm meeting in my neighborhood is Christians.
That's not our
here.
experience here in central Pennsylvania.
No,
just so you
I'm
know.
sure not.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting little bubble that we live in Franklin, Tennessee. You know, it is pretty conservative, and it's like the Christian music world. One struggle I found, I think I chatted with you guys last year about, I have a daughter with autism, and I have seen kind of a lack of community for parents with special needs kids.
Yeah.
And so my heart has definitely felt like I'm supposed to love on some moms. And I, about a year ago, sort of started a small group called Gladiator Mamas and found initially probably 20 moms who were like, yes, I need this. I want to do this. And just nobody would show up. They're busy, you know, I would say is that struggle. And then I don't know if this is the same for you guys, but in this area, people don't commit. So I had all their emails and we had like a Facebook page. And so I would try to double it up with reminders like, okay, so, and I think I tried about once a month to have us gather.
Yeah.
The very first time there was maybe 8 women and it was amazing. I could hardly get people to even email back and say they could or couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And it just became like, you know, on one hand, it's hard not to be personally offended because your heart's in it. And you, it's really like, I want to do this for all of us. I think probably for sure special needs mamas are just pulled in every direction. And so for me, that is one of those, like, how do I foster that? And how do I help those mamas? And what would be easier? I must not have made it easy enough, you know? So that was a little bit of a hurdle.
That is frustrating because if you think back just like 10 years ago, that didn't feel like the case. But I mean, we've definitely experienced that here in Central PA. Just you know, getting somebody to text you back or email you back is.
But it's affinity neighboring, not a chosen one, right? But that is part of God's story for your life, and you're choosing to love your neighbors in that, which I think is beautiful, regardless of how many people show up. Yeah.
I kind of stopped. I stopped because the last event I tried to, I didn't try to overdo it. I literally just I'd get some pastries and have some coffee, and I'd just pick the place and time and say, let's do it. And one other mama came and we had an amazing chat and we're friends anyway. But it just was like, okay, so I feel like I really need help. Like I need to kind of go maybe with a few of my pastors even going, and we have a small group lead guy at church and just kind of going, okay, what do you think I could do better? Because I think these moms were interested. So there are definitely hurdles. It's hard to gather people sometimes.
Busyness is an issue right now.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to do a lightning round?
Let's do the lightning round.
Yeah, let's do the lightning round.
One of our favorite things to do on the podcast.
Let me drink some more coffee. Get ready for this.
So, Steve, we'll alternate these questions.
Okay.
I'll ask one, you ask one.
All right.
Tricia has no idea any of these questions are coming. Just don't think too hard about it, Tricia. Okay. You're being timed and scored. Yeah. So
you don't even have to explain your choice. Yeah. It's just like it's lightning round, so it's going to move quick.
Just like maybe 10 of these. All right, ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Texting or talking?
Texting.
Okay. Favorite day of the week?
Sunday.
Good answer.
That's you are a good Christian, Tricia. You're so good. Favorite city in the U.S. besides the one you live in?
Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Nickname your parents used to call you?
Trish? I can't think of a
They're
funny
so
one they call me,
creative.
actually.
Your
I'll have to
parents
ask
are
my
so
dad.
creative.
Doll. I
All
think
right.
my dad called us both doll.
Okay, doll. That's
All
good.
right.
Last song you downloaded.
Ooh, I haven't downloaded it.
I mean, do we download songs? We just stream them,
We
right?
stream them, yeah.
What if I?
Last-
What if you said streamed? The last song I looked up on Spotify was, I think, a Tasha Layton song to play for my kids.
Oh, okay.
We saw her in Panera, and I said, "You guys, she's a singer," and so
Okay, I have an additional question. It's not on here.
Okay.
Sing the first line of that Lisa Loeb song.
sing it.
Yeah.
Okay. You say I only hear what I want to.
Love that.
Classic. Amazing.
Great song.
Yeah.
And she's so good live.
Oh, she's great.
Okay, here's a good one. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Talk to animals.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying AI is going to let us do that now. So, I mean,
I don't know if I want to know what's in Blondie's head, right?
Yeah.
Like she has a dog
Oh
named
my God.
Blondie.
uh-huh.
The dog's
It's pretty
a spaz.
crazy.
Yes.
All right. I think I know this one, but favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one. I don't know. This next one, I didn't write these. It feels like this is a little bit vulnerable. Okay. How long does it take you to get ready?
Probably, if I lump it all together, maybe an hour. I might take about an hour. Yeah.
Seems very reasonable.
Poor
Yes.
Tricia today. I was texting her and I'm like, hey, by
I
the
was
way,
like, is this video?
This is telling her it's going to be on video as well and on YouTube. And
Mhm.
she's like,
Yeah.
you're
I was
going to
gonna
have to
look
give
really
me
rough this morning because I'm having horrible allergies. Horrible. So my eyes are like pink.
Oh.
And I got bit by something on my face a couple days ago. Got
Oh,
this little
dear.
lump here.
Well,
So
come
I was
crying to
looking
me
rough
when you
this
start
morning.
experiencing male pattern baldness. All right. Scale of 1 to 10. How good of a driver are you?
8.
Nice.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty good.
All right. Here's a controversial one. Song lyrics: unforeseen kiss or sloppy wet kiss?
I feel like unforeseen kiss. I actually feel like sloppy wet kiss just distracts from the whole song.
I am completely
Oh, yeah.
with you on that one.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you're okay if someone else takes your song and changes the lyrics. So you're okay
oh,
with that.
Oh, it's like that.
I'm okay with that. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's
All
funny.
right. All right. My wife changed the lyrics. So she sang one of my songs the other night and she changed the lyrics. I'm like,
You were like,
she's like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
I'm
I think
like,
that's
okay.
implied in the marriage,
Yeah.
the marriage covenant. You know, you
That's
can do
right.
yeah,
that.
maybe that's not a good idea with your spouse.
No man will come between you or song
Or his
lyrics.
lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Favorite junk food?
Okay, this is funny, but currently I have current obsessions, and it's like the only thing I like at the time, and then I eventually am sick of it. Currently, the little Werther's chewy caramels. They taste like fresh caramels, guys. Like they're all individually wrapped in a bag, but I love fresh caramel, but like, you know, how I don't find people that make caramel all the time. Anyway, you pop it in your mouth. It tastes like you're eating fresh caramel, but it's Werther's. And
So
I
this
have
is
a
not
thing
the
for
Werther's
caramel.
original.
No.
It's not that's the
So
old man.
I
Not
have
the
a-
candy.
original. Those you have to like. Those are hard, and those
Yeah.
can break your teeth.
I have a
These
quick
are-
I have a quick story that involves you and Werther's.
Really?
This happened when I was at your house. I did not tell you,
Okay.
and I'm embarrassed
Oh,
about
no.
it.
Oh,
But-
you never have to be embarrassed.
No, and it's kind of recent because when I was at your house last,
Yeah.
Nick and I were watching like something on MMA. I think
Yes.
Bo Nickel was on there when we were watching it,
Mhm.
and you gave me one of those,
Yeah.
and I lost a tooth in it.
No.
Yeah. So like, I'm like, what is this? And I pulled it out and my tooth was sticking in it.
No, you didn't.
Yes. And I did not want you to feel bad. So I never
Oh,
told you.
my
However,
gosh.
I just had $3,000 of dental work this week. So that freaking Werther's
Wow.
candy
No.
cost me $3,000.
That really came around
Yeah.
full circle.
My gosh.
Wow.
So it's,
First of
see,
all,
it's right there.
that is the one thing that worries me about anything chewy.
Yeah. So
Is that one day that's going to happen to me? I've had so many people tell me they've like lost a filling
yeah,
or a tooth with chewy.
I had to have two
That's
crowns. I had to
horrible.
have 2 crowns put in.
So a whole tooth came out.
Yeah, and
How far
half
back was
of the
it?
other one
It's
came out.
I don't know. That's almost like a selling point if you're talking about caramel. I mean,
So-
it's like it's that good.
I hate to
Yeah.
bring that up,
Maybe-
but
Maybe I
Wow.
should say to you that that those teeth needed to come out.
there
So
you
you're
go.
welcome.
yes, they probably did.
In
You're
God's
right, you're
providence.
But that's horrible. And
Yeah.
dentists are so expensive
right.
now.
Yeah,
Oh my
and we don't have insurance, so you'll get an invoice later, right after
Okay.
this. Since
We'll just start deducting. We'll just have
All right.
like, okay, so what do I owe you? What do
Yeah.
I owe you on that tooth?
Like copay on that. All right. A couple more here. Stale Sour Patch Kids or fresh circus peanuts?
Stale Sour Patch Kids.
yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, because I don't even like the circus peanuts. So
Yeah, there you go.
All right, last lightning round question here. Make a high pitched sound.
That was
at high pitch.
I'm still waiting. I couldn't hear that.
Do you have a whistle? By the way, like vocally,
Did
do
he
you-
come through?
yeah, it sort of did. All the dogs in the neighborhood are barking right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Do you have a whistle tone? Do you have in your voice?
No, I have had seasons when I'm really, really
Yeah.
vocalizing a lot when I have been able to hit those Mariah Carey notes. My sister, what's funny is that she really ended up having the lower voice, but she can do it.
Oh, okay.
What's the one Mariah Carey song where she goes "Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do," and she's in like an octave up from that? My sister can do it in a falsetto. She can do it like in the back of her throat.
Wow.
And I think once or twice alone in my car, you just try
right,
things
right.
sometimes. If you remember, we had our first album, Karaoke Superstars. Our
Had
second.
Barlow Girls on it, and
But that was that whole idea is that like who you are in your car when a favorite song comes on.
Yeah.
It's like who we all would be if we weren't trying to act cool
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time.
favorite karaoke song. Favorite
Ooh.
karaoke song.
Oh, so one of the Dixie Chicks songs I sang, Earl Has to Die came to mind. I think I sang that once karaoke.
Wow. That's
It was one of those from that album was my favorite because I haven't done karaoke in a while, although I saw karaoke with
Hey,
you, John.
you and I were at karaoke together last time I
You
was in
did it.
Nashville, and I did it. And then, I'm like, are you serious,
There were,
Tricia?
there were actually too many good singers there
It
for me
was-
to even
I was
try.
gonna say the karaoke scene in Nashville must be
Nashville.
insane.
Yeah.
They're so good.
It was
Yeah.
for a release party for a friend of ours who grew up in State College, but she was on The Voice and had a record deal with Toby
and
Mac.
she can sing like Whitney Houston.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, yep, I'm just going to sit back and listen. I don't need to compete with that. That was
Yeah.
a fun night.
So I just took advantage to do just a little piece of stand up too that night at
Yes, you
karaoke.
did.
And, like anytime, I'll just steal it to do some
I mean,
stand up.
Nice.
Yeah.
just work that skill. Work that, what do you call it? I can't think of how I wanted to say that. Never mind. Take that out, Nick.
So Tricia, this has been really fun.
Yeah.
Any kind of closing thoughts, encouragements, exhortations to people who are on their own front yard mission journey with what you've learned along the way? You've shared a lot of great thoughts with us, but any closing thoughts?
I honestly feel like every church needs to have a session of front yard mission. I really feel strongly this is if somebody hasn't really thought through and to read your book would help a lot with all the practical things. And, but I honestly think it's life changing when you really think about, like, sure, I might need to have a job. Sure, I have a family, but, am I loving people? Am I hiding out from my neighbors next door?
Yeah.
Have I let them annoy me? And so I've like kind of put a wall up. Am I just like taking 5 extra minutes to stand and water my yard and be available if they want to chat? Or I have a couple people right now I know in our neighborhood that I think I've had a couple thoughts of ways that I can love them better recently. It's just on my mind more because of reading the book and going through the class. And I just think if churches would do a weekend with you guys optimally, and let you share your heart behind this, it would change towns and neighborhoods and cities, because so many people live isolated.
Yep.
And it might not be because they even want to be. I think, COVID changed things, and some people haven't come out of hiding into community again.
That's true.
We need each other, and so if you're wherever you are, I know that God can use you to love people. Yeah. That's what I know. So if you have the neighbors to do it. If not, then who you're with at work, you can change their lives wherever you are. And I think you guys are right. It's a worthy pursuit to try to live your life loving your neighbor.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like sometimes either we don't have neighbors, physical neighbors, but we talk about like these 3 things, see your street as your mission field, your workplace as sacred, and the commonalities that you have with someone else as the front door to the church. So there's different areas that we can love our neighbor. And Tricia, I like, you're one of my favorite people on the planet, and it's been for my wife and I to be friends with you you and Nick for the last few years. Like, we've been really close, and just love you, and I appreciate you, and I love that you're on our team. Like that's Thank huge. You. Like I'm done like fangirling, like with you, like so anyhow, I just appreciate you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I feel very supported and loved by you guys.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Tricia. And so glad to be working with you and partnering with you in this whole Front Yard Mission thing. And thanks for joining us today. This has been great. So thanks everyone for listening. With that, we'll say bye and see you next time.
Go to Amazon.com and pick up your copy of our book, Front Yard Mission: How to Start a Love God, Love Neighbor movement in your neighborhood. If you're interested in learning more about Front Yard Mission, find us at frontyardmission.com. Or join our Facebook or Instagram community, where you can find tips, stories, and encouragement to help you with your front yard mission. The Front Yard Mission podcast is sponsored by The Flower Box, produced by Nick Baumhardt, and hosted by Steve Lutz and Jonathan Weibel. Our theme music, How to Heal a City, was written by Jonathan Weibel. I'm Tricia Brock. See you next time.